Welcome back to QlikWorld. Welcome to day 2. How was day 1 for everyone? Everyone do good?
Yeah. Fabulous.
How was last night? Some people were like, it was off the rails. Congratulations if you made it back here. Lots of people still walking in, no judgment. We've also captured some really great images of all of you engaged at QlikWorld yesterday, and you can see this on the screens behind me. A little careful because we'll be catching you on camera today and at that amazing party. I'll be telling you more about that later. Now, as I was reflecting on yesterday, I was thinking, what a great start. Let's just recap a little bit because Mike Capone set off the right tone with observations about where we're at as a data industry and what it means to leverage data in a business world that sometimes seems uncertain. His vision of where the management and use of data is going and how Qlik has been building to be your trusted partner now for 30 years. I think we can all agree was incredibly insightful. And I hope we can get to the show floor. I gotta tell you, I had such a great experience on the show floor yesterday, seeing all the companies using and leveraging Qlik technology. I don't want to play favorites, but I did have a great experience at the Red Hawks booth. I talked about that a little bit briefly yesterday. You know, as somebody that was mentored by the late great Stuart Scott, starting my career at ESPN, I was covering sports technology before it was a thing. And I was so intrigued to learn about the Red Hawks and how they're using sensors in athlete uniforms. It's just one example. So cool to see how many companies and customers and partners are just making things happen. Supply chains being upgraded, digital transformation, NGOs making a difference. And I think ultimately this all underlines Mike Capone's point about optimism and thinking about all the great things that data is enabling. I want to pause here because I want to welcome everybody that joined us on the live stream. And I was a little blown away to learn that yesterday on the live stream, LinkedIn Live and all the virtual properties, you want to guess how many virtual attendees we had? 13,115 virtual participants. Welcome to all of you tuning in live. Of course, welcome to everybody here in Las Vegas. All right, let's keep things going. As I cover technology, I'm always looking for new trends, and I wanted to highlight a few amazing things that are happening here at QlikWorld. First, Mike and Crawford were talking about automation yesterday. Super cool. And on that note, I ran into the team at Mirror, and they're using the QlikSense platform for a solution in process mining. Now, this is such an interesting new area of getting value from data by making it possible to analyze complete processes automatically. And you know, it's an emerging space because Gartner actually just issued their first Magic Quadrant for process mining, naming your work using Qlik as a leader in the Magic Quadrant. So very exciting stuff. So and you know, I want to encourage you, if you can and you're interested, check it out on the show floor this afternoon. So here we are. Day 2 has arrived, and it is begin time to translate the vision we heard yesterday into product reality and really getting into a deeper dive on products. Later in our program, you're going to hear how you can find out how certainty is all possible in one of the biggest underwater search and rescue missions. So much going on the main stage here today. So let's get started, QlikWorld. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Qlik Chief Product Officer, James Fisher.
Good morning.
Morning.
You made it. That makes me happy because I would have been here all on my own, which would have been terribly, terribly sad. Right, so yesterday, Mike talked about it being a 30-year anniversary of Qlik. And they say that time flies when you're having fun. So what better time could there be than now to celebrate our 30-year anniversary with all of you? I don't think it's a stretch at all to say that everybody involved with Qlik over that period of time, you, our customers, our partners, all of our Qlik employees, past and present, have to have been having a lot of fun over that period because that has just flown by. So I apologize in advance because I'm just going to try now and make a few of us feel a little bit old. It was 1993 when Mark Andreessen first released the Mosaic browser, what later became Netscape. Many of us remember that. But it was a far more notable year because that was the year when the first version of Qlik was released, a product that started its journey at Tetra Pak to help them improve the way that they did business. Jumping forward 3 years later, Google was founded. We had QlikView version 2, which set about improving business decision-making at even more organizations by combining the power of the human and the machine through our breakthrough analytics engine. Jumping forward again, 2007, everybody remembers this. Steve Jobs was on stage in California launching the iPhone. QlikView 8 is on the scene, and it's starting to grow up a little bit and look like the pioneering business discovery tool that we all got to know and love. But by the time we get to 2011, Series launched, QlikView 11 is around, and the dashboard is starting to look a little bit busy. We're starting to cram a lot of stuff onto that dashboard. It's highly governed, but it's not necessarily supporting the flexibility that's needed by a broader set of users in the community. So by the time 2014 rolls around, the first VR headsets are here, and we're making a major pivot in our strategy with the launch of QlikSense, which incidentally is the year that I joined Qlik. So that is worth celebrating, if nothing else. That evolution continued though in 2018 when we pivoted again. We acquired Podium Data to bring the catalog to the platform and extend our reach across the data pipeline, recognizing that available business-ready data was really the key to the delivery of the best insights to the biggest community of users. And then in 2019, when we launched the first of our augmented analytics capabilities, we then completed our biggest and arguably most successful acquisition to date when we welcomed the Attunity team to the Qlik family. And then last year, again, a great milestone, what I believe is a breakthrough milestone for us. We brought our data movement and transformation capabilities into Qlik Cloud, signaling our ability to support a full end-to-end data pipeline from a single user experience in a singular cloud platform. And all of that represents an incredible journey spanning not only 30 years, but also over 5 billion lines of code, thousands of releases, 13 acquisitions on a journey to support more than 38,000 customers in industries all around the world. So from day one at Tetra Pak through to now, Qlik has always focused on helping customers improve business performance with breakthrough innovation. And that continues with Qlik Cloud today. This is perhaps what excites me most, our ability to drive new levels of adoption through the cloud. We've more than doubled our daily active users over the course of the past year. More than 20,000 apps are open daily, more reports are being distributed, and over 70% of our enterprise customers are using automations. Customers like Lenovo, Cone, Leroy Merlin exemplify this adoption and are speaking at this event over the course of yesterday and today. But it's not the what that excites me most, it's the how and the why. The why is the increasing demand that we are seeing for cloud-based data and analytics solutions. The how, however, is all about you. Because you built it. From the smallest feature to truly breakthrough capabilities, you are helping us build out an analytic platform, a data integration capability that is improving the way business is conducted. From our founders and that first idea they had, working with those first customers, to each of you in the room here today as data professionals, you all helped build Qlik, and you are all helping build Qlik Cloud today. Now, of course, with the best will in the world, we can't do everything, but we will always listen to you. After all, as leaders in your field, data professionals, what better source of inspiration could there be? Today, your feedback is driving over 80% all of the deliverables that we put out into market. It drives our prioritized investment with balanced investment across data integration, analytics, and the foundational services. That prioritization and that feedback underpins our three core principles: that we are a cloud company, that we respect our customers' data and where it resides, and we will protect your investments. So while our strategy is cloud first, it's not cloud only. We continue to invest in our client-managed solutions with new sources and targets for data integration, new analytics and visualization capabilities in QlikSense. We will continue integration offering, focus on analytics, and we continue to support independent use cases for both data integration and analytics, but maximizing the value of the two together. And finally, as hopefully you've seen in some of the most subscribed breakouts of this event, we will share all of this with you in an open and transparent manner through our roadmap, which all of our go-to-market teams and partners are enabled to share with you. Of course, all of that just got a little bit more important. As Mike said yesterday, the planned acquisition of Talent is hugely, hugely exciting. Exciting as we get to welcome new customers and partners alongside an incredibly passionate team of people to our collective family. And exciting as once again, we get to broaden our portfolio and help create new value. At the same time, I appreciate that this will raise lots of questions. So while this is exciting, my aim is to make sure it's not dramatic. So what can you expect to see next? Well, out of the gate, we of course have to close the transaction, which, as Mike said yesterday, is still subject to regulatory approvals. But once we're able to do that, we'll aim to bring the two companies together around a shared vision for a combined portfolio of solutions for data professionals spanning data integration, data quality, and data governance, alongside our already rich portfolio of analytics solutions. Next, we'll plan to make that portfolio available as one packaged offering for our customers, leveraging our new capacity-based pricing model and packaged for specific use cases. We intend to enable customers to leverage the power of Qlik and Talent solutions together. As I said earlier, one of the principles under which we've always operated is to ensure we protect customer investments. No customer will be left behind, and existing customers will still be able to continue to consume Qlik and Talent solutions and use more of them separately as they've always done. Second, we plan to offer one experience to those customers who want to leverage Qlik and Talent together. We'll achieve this by providing access to the Talent Management Console through Qlik Cloud to allow access to the underlying services. Our aim here ultimately is to deliver a standard user experience in Hub, single security, access, authentication, entitlement, telemetry, DevOps, and more, spanning hybrid deployment methodologies, leveraging Talent's existing control plane and data plane approach. And once again, existing customers will continue to be able to leverage Talent exactly as they've always done previously. And then longer term, we'll establish a baseline for best-in-class services supporting each of the core capabilities that we define in our cloud. We'll plan to build these services so they seamlessly support a full range of data management use cases, whether that's database to database replication, data warehouse modernization, data lake creation, streaming, data quality, API services, or operational data transformation. Taken as a whole, the combination of Qlik and Talent creates a market leader in providing data professionals with data integration, data quality, analytics, and machine learning in a singular cloud platform. But of course, this is just not all about Talent. We've made significant investments organically in both data integration and analytics. And I'd now like to take a little look at some of these. So let's first start with data integration. But before I get too much into the detail, I just really want to re-emphasize for everybody here that we will always support an open data pipeline. So just as we did with Opportunity, just as we've done organically, and just as we will do with Talent, that pipeline will always support all use cases, analytics-driven or otherwise, and will do so irrespective of your analytics tool of choice. That's key to our thinking. How are we focusing within that? Simply put, this is all about putting a best-in-class portfolio of data integration, data quality, and data governance solutions into the hands of data professionals. By bringing Qlik and Talent together, we aim to deliver all of this by providing underlying capabilities that support each step of the data pipeline, spanning connectivity, movement and ingestion, data transformation, quality governance, alongside those API and orchestration services that are needed to support this. These in turn then map to those use cases that I described earlier, and they'll allow customers to build out a solution grouping that reflects the source, the target, and the type of data movement and transformation that is required. I'll come back in just a moment and look at some of the deliverables there and what's coming next in each area. But before I do that, I want to illustrate how all of this is going to work together. I want to illustrate what is the art of the possible with Qlik and Talent together today as partners. So you'll have noticed that Josh Good, our Vice President of Product Marketing, has joined me on stage. Josh, welcome.
Thank you.
Josh and I have had a long debate about which type of shoes and socks he's going to wear today. So we're on Talent socks. There we go, Talent socks. So look, Josh, what's possible? Bring this to life. How's all this going to work together?
So there's a huge amount to show, and we're going to start at Qlik Cloud Data Integration, where I'll show you extracting data, transforming data, and how to understand data quality. You can see up on the screen here, I have a prepared data pipeline, and there's lots of different ways that we're extracting data and bringing it into the pipeline. The first is from on-premises data, in this case SAP. That's coming out from the gateway, and then being moved with change data capture right into our target up in the cloud. Now, not all your data is on-premise anymore, which is great. Some of it's already in the cloud, and we have all sorts of connectors, for cloud connectors, where you can access those as well. There's a whole plethora of them here. And then with the connector factory, we plan to release over 100 new ones this year as well. Now, we also know sometimes you're moving data and it's not using our software. Like maybe you're using Talent, Stitch product from Talent. And that's this right here. Really great way of moving data from Salesforce. And you can see I've done a bulk load, and then I've been moving it incrementally. And I can even see the latency from the tables. Stitch has a huge number of connectors, over 130 connectors, and I can select any one of those connectors here. James, I know you have a favorite human resource management software. Which one's that?
My favorite cloud-based human resource management software, when we say Workday.
Well, yeah, we got Workday, and you use the internet, and when you're browsing the internet, or which browser?
Google's our partner, so Chrome.
Chrome, Google, yeah. So we have all sorts of Google, and you're quite the TikTok guy, so we can look at all sorts of ads that run on social media as well. All of that is here in Stitch and be moving the data, but the great part is you can register it into the pipeline right here, and then it's available for downstream transformations.
So that notion there of being able to register third-party data, that could apply to any type of data movement capability. You've shown Talent and Stitch there. That can be replicated as well.
Yeah, absolutely, James. We see this as a great way for our existing data integration customers to start using Qlik Cloud Data Integration as well. And then you can now be doing that for downstream cloud transformation, which is the next part of the demo. So let's get right into that.
Josh, I would love to see those transformations.
So here we have several different transformations being done here, and I'm going to open up this particular one. We're doing push down transformations using SQL. So we can write that SQL as part of the building the transformation inside Qlik Cloud Data Integration, or you maybe wrote it somewhere else and you can just pop that in. Here's an example right here of some SQL, and I know all of you are checking my SQL to make sure it's correct. I'm not going to have any errors right now. I'll give you a moment to do that. But the really interesting thing, and the exciting part, is what you can do around how this transformation transformation works. So there's two key things that I've set up here. One is I'm doing non-materialized tables. So while I'm doing the transformations, I don't actually have to create the tables, store them, put them somewhere, keep track of them, govern them. They're just non-materialized. They're available to me, but they don't physically exist. And the other is I'm doing historical data capture by capturing type 2 changes. So although my source of record doesn't capture historical changes, I'm capturing that here. I'm actually enriching the data that's available to me. Once we've done all the transformations we're interested in, we need to make it analytics ready. There's one last step here, which is creating data marts. We can automate the creation of data marts because we've moved the data through the transformations. We understand the data and the dimensions and the facts. So I can just search for a fact table here. I add that in, and then immediately for me on the right-hand side, I'm being suggested of which dimensions to add. And I can hit select all of you can hit select all and hit apply. And there we go, we've automated the creation of a data mart right there. So you can see with transformations, we can automate data marts, we can do capture historical type 2 changes, and we can do all sorts of push down processing to have the transformations whenever you need to be done. The last thing I'm going to show you is around data quality, because all of this effort is pointless if you have crappy data. With Qlik and Talon, the way we can integrate, we not only take advantage of Talon's data quality capabilities, but we also can expose that to the business so that they trust the data more and will use the data for actionable insights. So starting out here in the Talon Cloud, I'm looking at my Talon Trust Score. This looks at the entire sets of data that I have and all of the factors that come into the total trust score. The great thing about that is it adjusts that score based on what I'm looking at. So if I change to a different set of data or I filter down, I get a slightly different trust score. There's also really important information available here, such as the validity of the data. So here, the census first name, I only have a 92% validity. So 8% of my data isn't even valid. So we'll jump down into that data set and we're going to go and fix it. I get a new trust score for that, of course, and then I can open up and see all of the transformation steps which are already occurring on that data set. It takes a moment to load, so I just preloaded it for us. So here's partially done. I have a whole bunch of steps that are done here, and I can actually, anywhere along that, I can look and see what the data look like along that pathway. And you can see here all the highlighted sections is everything that we've already made changes on. Now we know we have an issue with first name, and we'll filter in on just the invalid pieces of data. So those invalid records, and then we'll understand what we need to do to make them valid records. And I can see they're all fully capitalized. Someone typed something in with cap locks on, probably. Well, I can fix that quickly, and you know what? It probably happened with last name too, so we'll highlight last name and we'll fix this all in one step. And I'm going to just change everything to title case, which means the first letter is the capital, the second letters and remaining letters are lowercase. I hit submit on that, the transformation is created, and then you'll see all the data disappears. And that's because everything's valid and we're filtered on only invalid data at this point. That takes a moment to run here. And the important thing is you see I now have no more red. And that's because all of first name now has valid data in it. So I know that I've done the right thing to solve this issue. So that's great, but how do we take that back and make it available to users to actually trust their data themselves? So that's where Qlik Application Automation comes in. We can integrate between various cloud softwares, including Qlik and Talon. So we're going to go in, we're going to pull out the trust score for all the data sets we're using. We'll drop them into a data repository. We're going to use Snowflake, and then we'll put that right into a QlikSense app. And here's an example of what you could have. So this is an order to cash application. And you're probably looking at it a lot near the end of the quarter. And you have to make sure the data is accurate. Are the orders being entered accurate? Are we fulfilling the orders correctly? And you can see here in the fulfillment, I got a 95% trust score. That's pretty good. It's actually really good. But in the receivables, I'm only at 66%. So I know that there's probably something wrong with my receivables. So if I'm not really seeing the data I'm expecting, there may be something wrong in the data pipeline that I need to adjust. So now I have more confidence in the data that has high trust, and I know where to look when I'm worried about the trust I have in that data. So adding Talon and Qlik together is with the trust score makes a huge difference. The integrations of transformations And then the ability to have this cloud and technology independent capabilities that add immediate value to our joint customers.
Josh, thank you very much. What a great demo. So, while that demonstrated what I think is the art of the possible with Qlik and Talent today, we also snuck in and highlighted a number of the deliverables on the data integration platform over the last year through our own organic investments. It's clear to see that as we peel back the covers on the data integration platform, we're going to be able to offer a truly differentiated breadth and depth. This is what we know our customers are looking for. You're looking for best-in-class capabilities in each domain, but available from a single vendor in a single platform. And that's exactly what our vision is setting out to do. Let's look at what we delivered last year. I won't talk about each of these. Again, you've been able to look at a lot of this in the roadmap sessions and the breakouts at this event. But needless to say, I'm excited that the vision that we set out over a year ago to deliver data integration as a service in the cloud is now a reality and fully available. The new cloud-based data movement and transformation services and the subsequent investments and incremental improvements that we made along that journey really deliver an incredible platform for our customers. We've also made a host of other enhancements, and we've delivered client-managed capabilities as well. These include a new variety of replicate endpoints to compose enhancements, including support for Databricks' new Unity catalog. And of course, our ongoing investments in helping customers access and manage their SAP data remains as strong as ever. I'm also excited that we continue to invest and broaden the reach of our catalog with the intent of ensuring that this supports both data and analytics use cases, and which will continue to serve as the bridge between data engineers and data consumers. Moving forward, we have a lot planned for this year, spanning every part of our portfolio on-premises and in the cloud. In the cloud, we're delivering a host of really exciting capabilities which will further open up opportunities for customers, including but not limited to those cloud sources and third-party transformations that Josh talked about, push-down transformations, cloud SQL targets, distribution across multiple targets, and further deliverables in our augmented data integration strategy around auto-classification in the catalog. Again, bridging that gap between data integration and analytics, the catalog will also get new enhancements supporting analytics use cases, including new QBD file management. And again, to learn more about these, check it out in the show floor, check out the roadmap sessions, check out the roadmap on Qlik.com. So what about analytics? Well, let there be no doubt that we continue to double down here and have continued to make significant investments to drive best-in-class analytics to support the broadest possible range of users in the community, irrespective of the type of analytics and the analytics maturity that they're working with, and irrespective of the level of data literacy that they have. To that end, our mission around analytics has been very stable over the last couple of years, and it reflects the type of incremental enhancements, in the most part, that are driven by your feedback. For me, it also reflects, as Mike said yesterday, why Qlik has been recognized again for 13 years straight in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, and we have no intention of letting that change, as I said. Our focus is therefore pretty simple, but I think equally powerful. Starting with the catalog, we'll drive trusted business-ready data into the hands of more developers across the spectrum of guided and self-service use cases. The catalog is going to increasingly focus on reusability of artifacts, driving more value more quickly. From there, the paradigm is simple. Help those developers create content more easily and then discover insights from them, never losing sight of the power of the engine that we have built. We'll then drive action and collaboration, be that from purpose-built domain-specific applications, by embedding analytics into business processes, or through events and automations powered through the cloud. So once again, Josh is still here. Thank you. You didn't run off.
Yeah, like a dirty shirt.
Good, this is good. the show, because that would be a really bad demo if I was doing it. So to show what is possible, Josh, walk us through what we can do next.
Thanks, James. So we're going to start with showing how we can upskill users and add more value to the data, find data, author content, and have assistance with AI with augmentation. So I'm here in the new simplified authoring experience, and it's a really great experience where I can see my data and interact with it at all times. All I need to do is just drag and drop something in, and the charts start building for me. And the charts start building for me. You can applaud while I'm waiting for this.
Yeah.
There we go. So then I can bring plan name in. Here. I'll buy you a drink later. So I can drag plan name, and I can drag in the churn, and you notice everything's updating as you'd expect. You also notice on the side, I can see the actual content of the data, not just the field names. And because I want to explore and build, I can interact without leaving the edit mode. That's a really great way to get to know your data. Insight Advisor is also available to me at all times to help me understand and create new content. I can explore by selecting on fields and have new charts generated. I can ask a question using natural language. And completely unique to Qlik, I can do something called analysis types. And this is where I have analyses that are suggested to me, and they're often more complex analyses, and I can do them in just a few clicks. There's a whole bunch of them down here. My favorite's the K-means cluster, so I'm picking that one. And I just select base fee, and I select service rating. So 2 measures, it tells me I need 2 measures, like 1 dimension, and there we go. Just in a moment, I get up a really beautiful scatter plot, which is doing advanced statistics and K-means clustering, which can also be added to my sheet. Now, I'm not limited, of course, to just simplified authoring. I can go into more advanced authoring, and I can bring in master items, and I put one up here, which is our new natural language generation object, where I'm actually looking at the data and getting text back to exactly what I'm looking at. Now, we know you don't want to stop here. Well, from the feedback we've heard from you, we know that you also want to do very fine-grained control authoring as well. And we can do that now really well. I can set the grid down to a very fine grid, almost pixel perfect. I can change the background so I get the exact look and feel I'm looking for. And there's all sorts of controls I have on charts now where I can do forecasting on that chart. I can do a rank chart as well. And I can also bring in a really nice KPIs and just drop those in and build a very, very beautiful looking dashboard in just a few moments. Ultimately, I can actually go highly fine-grained access, or fine-grained control, excuse me, and I can build out something like this, which starts to look much more like a report. And when we start getting more into like reports, well, you're probably going to want to get them delivered to you via email. We can do that as well. We can subscribe to sheets, and then we just drop in the slides or the sheets that we want, and you end up creating a multi-sheet report. And I can get that in PDF or in PowerPoint, and I subscribe to that. End up with an email on a daily basis, and there we have a beautiful PowerPoint report generated for me by Qlik, all authored inside QlikCenter. It's really exciting how we're upskilling all users from creating to authoring, and then also right down to reporting. The next thing I want to show you is analytics superpower. Predictive and prescriptive analytics change the game for our customers. And we're going to start with something completely new that will be coming out shortly called key drivers. From inside a regular app, this is what we just built. And all I need to do key drivers is right click and say key drivers. And I will now run, I'll pick what I'm interested in, which is going to be the service rating, and I can start that analysis. The key driver analysis gets built out for me, and it'll show up in Insight Advisor right here. This will now tell me what happened with my data and why it happened. So in this case, my service rating is being driven by 4 major factors, the most important one being territory. So now I understand that my service center and the territories they cover are actually affecting how good my service is. And I can drill down on that and look and see which territories are doing a better job and which are not. I can even look for outliers and look at the individual customer level and see how that's affecting their perception of the service rating right there. And all of that is done completely native inside QlikSense. Up to this point, I've only shown you looking in the past. This is what happened and this is why it's happened. I like to influence the future as well. So I can do that by creating an AutoML experiment. So we'll just start a new experiment, starting from the hub. I'll give the experiment a name, and then I'm going to be asked to pick a data set. If you're talking to a data science, say, yes, I have a training data set. If you're not talking to a data science, just say, oh, I got some historic data. So we'll pick this training data set, and then I just pick my target of what I want to try to predict. In this case, we're going to predict churn, whether customers are canceling or not with us. We can affect the other factors, which will affect the model if we choose to, or we can just run the experiment and have it all optimized for us. This takes a couple minutes to run. This is a quite complicated model, but what it's done is it goes out and it picks the best, the best fit for my data. In this case, it's an XP boost classification. I get information about why it picked that based on the F-score and the accuracy, and I see the permutation importance and the SHAP report, which tells me what's driving the outcomes of my who churns. I also get a little more advanced things to add credibility to this, with like the confusion matrix, which is just telling me if there's false positives or false negatives. I can deploy that model out. I'm going to enable API access, and then I get a whole new set of data that I can perform analytics on. And I've done that right here. So this scatter plot is showing me who's likely to stay with me on the left-hand side and who's likely to cancel or extremely likely to cancel. Now, the thing that you're not probably going to change someone who's leaving for sure, but the middle is really interesting because that's where you have the opportunity to influence outcomes. You also can see how I can influence the outcomes by seeing that feature report, which gets displayed right here as well. Now, because this is Qlik, I can go right down to the detail level. I'm going to select one customer, and I'm going to get the exact thing that's driving them to probably cancel or probably not. And in this case, you'll notice there's a 59% chance of them canceling. I can also see the prediction of why that's happening, and there's two things that are driving it. It's the plan and the number of penalties. Now, I just want to solve this problem quickly, so I'm like, if they're getting a lot of penalties, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reduce their base fee. I'm going to reduce what they pay every month, and then the penalties, won't be as impactful. And you can see right there, I've completely reduced their churn to 90%. So that didn't work. It's really odd, right? I went to the customer and said, hey, pay me less. And they're like, no, now I'm leaving for sure. So we need to be able to explain what's happening and understand that. And we're going to shift modes here and go into a totally prescriptive mode. Instead of just moving around the sliders and trying to figure out what's going on, we'll go and look exactly what is happening and why. And the middle bar chart here, when it comes up in a moment, is actually going back to the APIs live to redo the predictions. You can see exactly what's happening. This is the probability of canceling. The orange bar here is where we're at. And if I raise the price, I'm going to decrease the probability of cancellation. And we've all experienced this phenomenon. You go on Amazon and you see the thing you want, and then you go, oh, well, it's way too cheap. There's no way I'm buying it. It's going to be crap. Well, we have the price so low with this customer, they're questioning the quality. We can also see the plan is not the correct plan, and then we get it all here in a single plot where it's all put together in a matrix so we can see when we move from one spot to another what will happen. So we'll solve this by moving them to the green plan and increasing their price to $40. And you'll notice the prediction here is now down to just 2% chance of cancellation. Isn't that amazing? From 60 down to 2% chance of cancellation, all done right here inside QlikCloud. True superpowers are unleashed with AutoML. Predictive and prescriptive analytics, and those key drivers are going to be available to everybody in QlikCloud as soon as it's released later this year. So the last thing I have to show you is something I'm really excited about, and it's integration with ChatGPT. I'll warn you up front, this is prototype stuff. We haven't shown this publicly to very many people at all, and I'm really excited to share it with you. What we're seeing out in the industry is many different vendors are playing with this, but they're all talking about how they're going to explain insights. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to load all of my private data and all of my company's data into ChatGPT. I'll be working on my LinkedIn profile if I do that. What I am going to do though is I want to have it help me do my job. And I want to help me do analytics. So we have 3 different ways that we're experimenting with to do that. One is if I need more data. So I can go in and I can add a new data set, and you'll notice there's a third option now, which is find data. I get a prompt here, and I can look for any data I want. And Syngenta, they just won one of our transformation awards. They're helping farmers deal with climate change. So let's look at agricultural disasters. So I'm going to look for the top 10 agricultural disasters. We'll look at by country and by month, year, and what the damage was. I click fetch, and now we're interacting with ChatGPT directly, and we're going to return a data set directly inside QlikCloud. Once that data set comes back, which is always painfully concerning when you're up on a stage watching in front of you, there it goes. We get this data set back, and I can hit create, and now we're going to put it directly in the catalog inside QlikCloud, and there it is right here. It's available now not only to me, but anyone else who has access to the space without landing it. So I'm enhancing the entire capabilities of my organization. In addition, I'm going to open this up. It's just generating now. And ChatGPT, you'll see, has actually been able to give me a description of this data, if it will come up for me. There it goes. About exactly what it is. So although I did a quick query, I'm going to understand what I got in terms of a data set back and that description. So I have an understanding, a much better understanding of what I'm doing. The second thing, wasn't that cool? I really love that. So I'm so excited, I just want to go on to the next part of the demo. So the next one is when I'm creating calculations. So here I am in the expression window, and I can type in, number of disasters. When I put that in, you'll notice right away for me, I got the expression return in the correct syntax by just typing in what I want. So it's a great way to have that. Now, it's not just anything like a count distinct. I can say for flood, and it returns it in set analysis format. This makes set analysis much easier. I like the mumbling in the room. I'm really excited too. I'm not done yet, but wait, there's more. In Insight Advisor, where you're actually analyzing your data, remember before I showed you analysis types, where you go in and you can pick analyses? Well, how do you know which analysis to pick? What's the best analysis for your data? Again, an integration with ChatGPT, where we're sending just the metadata across, and it's looking at the metadata and suggesting the best analysis to do. Such as, for example, damage analysis. Identify the most common types of disasters and their associated damages. That's been piped right into Qlik to help me do my analysis. I select on that, and I get Insight Advisor will return a bunch of charts for me and the explanations around that. But in addition, it's going to help me continue on with what I'm doing. I have background information here, which tells me more about natural disasters and the data coming in from ChatGPT. I have recommended other data sources, which I may want to continue my analysis on. And I also have a recommendation on the exact next analysis I should do, which in this case is a time series analysis. So all of that is assisting me through what I'm doing without me needing to share my data directly with ChatGPT. James, what do you think of that?
I think it's pretty good.
Just pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good.
So that was awesome. I can't be that mean to you. Just like with data integration, I think that really just shows just how much is going on under the covers as we listen to the feedback and we try to enhance the platform. But again, I think the generative AI stuff is really interesting, really exciting, but we've got to keep each other honest here, right? We've got to figure out what the right use cases are, how we're going to protect the privacy of data in that. And I think that creates an incredible opportunity for collaboration with this audience?
Yeah, absolutely. It is all prototypes. It's all working prototypes, but we really want to know how you think the best way to be using this type of technologies are. So come on over to the show floor, interact with ideation, and also on Qlik Community, the ideation space is a great place to continue this conversation. After all, you all helped build this, as James said earlier, and we want to continue doing that.
Awesome. Josh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Look, he's just great, isn't he? What Josh showed was a number of the innovations that we've delivered over the last year. And again, I won't talk about each of these, but they all represent those incremental improvements which are based on your feedback as you use our product and engage with our product. And that is all designed to help us drive adoption. We've also, again, I think, delivered a host of new capabilities here across the platform. Entirely new capabilities like the QlikWorld ML, which was delivered to every cloud tenant last year, but also new deployment options, including Qlik Cloud Government, new multi-tenant options to support our OEM partners as well. At the same time, we've made a host of additions to existing capabilities, things like the new authoring experience. We're rapidly innovating on the roadmap around bringing imprinting-like capabilities to the reporting service in the cloud, as you saw there. And we have a continued investment, ongoing investment around visualizations and the controls of those visualizations as well. These themes continue in 2023, and we've got a lot planned here around new deliverables, including data prep for analytics. This is going to have multiple applications across the platform. The first area we're focusing on is actually to further help in the manipulation and preparation of data models for those AutoML use cases. There's also an ongoing theme here this year around supporting more advanced deployment options, more fine-grained security enhancements, customer managed keys, alongside continued investment in the underlying architecture to take advantage of the incredible cloud platform that we've built. They will also include expansion of our cloud platform into entirely new regions with AWS, including the UK, Germany, and Japan. There's the UK team, right? Hi guys, how are you? All right, everything here though has one unifying characteristic, and that is that it's driven by you. It's driven by your feedback, and it's designed to help your journey with Qlik and to the cloud at a pace that makes sense for you. And that's really how I'd like to wrap up this morning, because none of this is possible without each of you. And now I'd like to share a really great example of how, when we partner with you, we work with our partners, we can build a roadmap and a shared vision for data and analytics. So it's my great pleasure to welcome back to the stage Art Labbe, the Global Head of Data and Analytics at Syngenta. Art, please join me. Good to see you. So look, it's a pleasure to be with you here in Las Vegas. We've had the opportunity to hang out quite a lot over the last couple of years, so it's great to see you. It's great to see you here. And let me congratulate you and the team once again on the Global Transformation Award yesterday. As a member of our advisory board as well, it's great to see that and see the journey that you've been on with Qlik, working with our technology, working with our customer success team. So my first question for you is, we touched on a little bit about it, but maybe you can go a little bit more deeply into Syngenta. What is the heart of your business and what's going on there?
Yeah, let me give you a bit of a feel there. At Syngenta Group, more than 50,000 people all across the globe, like myself, are striving every day to transform agriculture. Transforming agriculture for the benefits of three main stakeholders. First and foremost, the farmer, all the farmers across the globe, and we're literally talking about hundreds of millions, small and big. Second, our serving the world with food. And the third one is the society, the planet, and the planet we have to take care of. And we do so via three main products and services. First of all, crop protection, both, let's say, the chemicals and the biologicals. The second one, seeds, and we sell a wide variety of seeds, from wheat to corn, maize, a wide range of vegetables, but also flowers. I like, of course, as it is. And the third one also is a rapid growth of digital products and services. So you can imagine we do a lot of drone spraying, a lot of, let's say, initiatives are taking place there as well, satellite imagery, and their data analytics is at the center. So that's in a nutshell what Syngenta is all about.
All right, so there's quite a lot going on there. So when you think about the type of business outcomes that Syngenta is trying to drive, what about your team and how are they contributing to those? And where do you see your investments in data and analytics driving towards those business outcomes?
I would like to call out the following. First and foremost, we have to ensure that we put a shared priority, a shared objective in place between our DNA organization and the business. So that kind of shared business plan, I would say, is paramount there. The second one is all about, let's make sure we also become data and insights driven ourselves. So we have to follow and track and trace into each and every detail what is the usage of all the kind of products and services that we bring to the organization. The third one, you all might have heard about the kind of FAIR principles. We have to step up and figuring out and think through how we can deliver data products. Data products living up to that FAIR, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. So that comes above and beyond versus delivering a point solution. We have to think through how we can make it widely used and reused, rather than we just, let's say, focus it for a one-off use case that we haven't had. The final thing I would like to call out is how well our DNA teams, or in the end, each and every of our individual employees are able to develop themselves. Because also today, we see a lot of new technologies that is coming to us. We might not know it today. That's fine. Let's make sure we all get used into what I call a learning culture.
Awesome, that's awesome. So you've been on a journey with Qlik for a number of years. You started with QlikView, you're now running over 11,000 employees on Qlik Sense, and you're embarking now on the migration into Qlik Cloud. So what's sort of some of the business drivers behind that shift to the cloud, and how do you see Qlik sort of evolving strategically in that landscape?
Yeah, interesting one. First of all, to set the context, somehow we are on that journey already for quite some time. So altogether, just over 5 years, and that is resulting into a trusted relationship between Syngenta and Qlik. And that also comes with the acknowledgement of each other's expertise. So here's more or less what we think as Syngenta, what we need. Qlik as a company to master the technology. They are the ones that should take the full operational responsibility of the platform, whereas our DNA organization would like to focus first and foremost in creating the value for our customers. And having that kind of distinct responsibility in place will also help us to reduce the total cost of ownership, because we will become much more focused between, let's say, the expertise we both should master. And it also comes with what I would like to call out as a kind of bonus that comes with more predictability. So that predictability is relevant for the business, but also for us in our DNA IT organization. Finally, what I would like to call out, and that's what we've just seen with the example that we have in the States, is the speed of innovation by benefiting quickly on new features with every release. That is definitely something we look forward to as well.
Awesome. So that last piece there, really about being able to take advantage and all of that new adoption, all of that new capability.
Exactly.
Excellent. Right. So I build it, you use it.
We have to do.
There we go. Excellent. All right. So one final question, Art. So what's next for Syngenta? What are you excited about over the coming year, and what's just keeping you going?
Yeah, also in light of what we have seen before and what I just mentioned, I look forward to the unknown and embrace and adapt in order to continuously improve our analytical decision advantage. Because we came probably sometimes from far, although I think we really have now a seat at the table, as it should. So that's the first one. The second one, related to this one, DNA to stay center stage in all our companies. We will remain making the difference and develop our people, our teams. And that's, I think, what should be fit into a mantra in getting better,
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Great to see you again. Great to see you here in Glasgow. So look, I love hanging out with Art. I love hearing about what Syngenta are doing. His team are doing incredible things. And I think that is why so many of us here at Qlik just says such a passion for engaging with this community. So look, I'm going to quote a colleague here. I won't tell you who he is, otherwise I'll never be able to get out of the room. Look, solving real business problems, managing your data landscape, dealing with the asks that are put on each of you in each of your teams every day, it's not easy. As data professionals, you're the leaders, you're the experts in your field, but you have a hard job. And we know it's a hard job, we get that. Our job is to make that easier. So let me close, not with a recap of what you've seen today, but just a simple commitment to each of you. As we drive our shared vision for data analytics forward, we will do so cloud first, but not cloud only. We will continue to support our customers' investments and continue to drive an open data platform where data integration, governance, and quality can live alongside and run independently of analytics and machine learning. We will continue to invest in your journey. And just like Syngenta, we'll build a partnership around a shared roadmap and a shared vision to help you achieve your goals. And finally, we will listen, we will act on your feedback. As I said earlier, from that first breakthrough innovation 30 years ago to the platform you've seen today, it was built by you. Thank you for the time today. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back our host, Katie Lindendahl.
I think we can all agree that was a very strong and informative discussion. I gotta tell you, there's always a lot of pressure for the product keynote, which you probably already know. It's kind of the highlight of every big customer conference, and the expectations are high. And as somebody that demos a lot on live TV, you're always like, everything please work. They nailed it. And I also think they did a great job highlighting Qlik's innovation across the data integration and analytics portfolio, and just providing insight into where Qlik is going. But don't just take my point of view of what you've heard on the main stage this morning and on Tuesday. How about we get some insight from a respected industry analyst who's always looking at the latest emerging trends that are shaping and changing data movement, ingestion, transformation, and consumption in the era of digital transformation. At this time, let's give a warm round of applause to Vice President of Data Integration and Data Intelligence Software for IDC, Stuart Bond. Now, if you could hit your entrance song, what would it have been?
That's tough.
I got you on the spot.
Got you on the spot. I kind of like David's entrance song.
Yeah. I was actually hustling yesterday, total sidebar about your t-shirt. Did you guys get your free t-shirt, by the way? Who got their t-shirt? Did you get your t-shirt?
I did.
Actually, like 10 times.
Yes.
You got the
With the machine learning book.
You like really love that.
I was. Yeah.
All right, let's dive in and have some chats. You've been here now, obviously, for a few days. What have you seen in the last 24 hours, 48 hours at QlikWorld that has really been mind-blowing for you, and also just early impressions?
I think what we just saw was we experienced the thrill of certainty, which is up on the screen here. We've seen new innovations. We're seeing and hearing about new developments and what Qlik is doing, but it's based on that foundation of a company that's been around for 30 years. So it's really exciting to see that come into play. And let's be honest, we can all get a little excited about certainty these days with all the uncertainty we've been through the last few years and continue to go through.
As a software market analyst focused on data intelligence and integration, it'd be interesting to get your perspective on just how you're seeing the markets changing. Of course, going back to that certainty and uncertainty, I'd love to get your point of view.
So we know that there's been a lot of focus on the modern data stack, where there's been these new analytical data repositories built in the cloud that honestly are solving is a lot of innovations and a lot of build up an ecosystem around those that has solved a lot of the problems we've had with our legacy enterprise data warehouses or big data repositories. It's kind of weird to talk about big data repositories as being legacy, but and so that's really good. But honestly, there's still that a lot of the patterns that we've done for decades are still being done in these modern environments. At IC, we prefer to talk about the modern data environment, where data is highly distributed. It's all over the place. It's in the cloud, it's hybrid, it's on-prem, it's multi-cloud, it's at the edge. It's very diverse. There's so many different kinds of data that we're dealing with these days. And it's also very dynamic. It's always moving, it's always changing. And so we like to look at its modern data environment, not the modern data stack, because the modern data environment includes all the modern data technologies. It also includes all the old stuff too. And so if you can think about, when you think about what organizations are doing, we talked about the patterns that they're doing is they're moving the data into these, logically at least, centralizing that data into these analytic repositories. I counter that move with, I think the first move that organizations need to make is centralize, at least logically, the intelligence about their data. If you know where your data is, what it looks like, what it means, how it's flowing through the organization, who's using it, how it's being used, and add to that security and privacy classifications, you can then make your decision on whether or not you need to move that data, how you're going to use that data to solve the business problem that you're working on. It gives you the opportunity to make intelligent decisions about where you put that data, how you process that data, to optimize your compute, storage, cost, as well as optimize your risk.
Can't let me off the hook without talking about talent, because obviously a hot topic of conversation around here, and be keen to hear your perspective on Qlik's acquisition of talent.
Absolutely. So at IC, we talk about the modern data environment. If you can envision in your mind a 3D model of 4 different layers, or 4 planes as we call them. The bottom of that stack is the data plane, where we have the highly distributed, diverse, and dynamic data. On top of that, we have the data control plane. The data control plane leverages the intelligence of the data to take control of that data in the data plane. It does that through that intelligence, governance, engineering to move that data, to transform that data, to cleanse that data, to serve the analytics plane, where insights are driven and insights are created, which then flow up into what we call the decisioning plane, where decisions are being made, supported by those analytics, being made by people, and increasingly being automated by machines. So if you're going to make automated decisions based on data, you better trust that data that you're working with. And so we see a number of different technologies across all of these planes. We see a lot of partnerships evolving in the market to deliver the end-to-end solutions across those planes. The Qlik and Talent story is one example of consolidation, where we're seeing companies come together to deliver solutions across all 4 of these planes. We recently did a survey of people managing data in our environment, and we asked them what kind of technologies make up your data management environment. And by far, the majority are using point solutions available from one vendor, which really speaks to the Qlik and Talent story very well. We also asked what's changed the most over the last year. And the thing that's changed the most is there's an increased use of comprehensive platforms or suites of capabilities. As Qlik looks to reconcile the different capabilities in the broader portfolio once the acquisition closes, they have the opportunity to create a platform of connected but independent products and solutions that they can deliver out to their customers, meet their customers with their needs where they are, to solve those modern data management problems. So I'm really quite excited about it, and I think if they can execute on that vision, they have a great opportunity for success.
Excellent. Stuart Bond, give him a round of applause. Hope you enjoyed hearing Stuart's perspective and viewpoints this morning. As he indicated, taking advantage of the show floor to find out more about all these solutions and capabilities, and just great to hear his point of view. At this time, I'm going to take a pause and thank our amazing sponsors. If you see members from these groups today, please make sure to let them know you appreciate them making this event possible. If we could give a round of applause for all of our sponsors. Yesterday, we learned about 4 great Qlik customers whose companies were leveraging Qlik to drive better outcomes, gain more value through data, and manage more successfully through digital transformation. And on that note, the Transformation Awards celebrate the best of Qlik customers. But they also celebrate the work of organizations who are doing great work helping the planet. Here to share much more, please welcome back to the stage my friend, Qlik Chief of Transformation Officer, Purnima Ramaswamy.
I'm delighted to be back and present our second day of awards. Without further ado, I'm honored to introduce 2 very special organizations that are truly changing the world. Qlik is humbled to be a small part of the impacts they drive. It's my distinct pleasure to unveil the 2023 winners of Qlik's Global Customer Transformation Awards. Our first winner is C40. C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group is dedicated to deliver the urgent action needed to confront the climate crisis. We are pleased to recognize C40 with the 2023 Global Transformation Award for how the organization and its member cities use Qlik to advance their climate action goals.
C40 is a network connecting the mayors of nearly 100 cities representing 20% of global GDP, collaborating to deliver the urgent action needed to confront the climate crisis. Using Qlik solutions, which include the advanced analytic capabilities such as AI and machine learning, C40 is gaining insights that enable the organization and its member cities to advance their climate action goals. Qlik dashboards include the Greenhouse Gas Emissions Dashboard, which shows historical greenhouse gas emissions data for cities, enabling in-depth comparisons through multiple views and filters, such as total or per capita emissions. The results are used as core evidence to inform cities, and the dataset is available for anyone to download on C40's Knowledge Hub.
I'd like to let you know that Mark Watts, Executive Director at C40, could not be with us here in person because of C40's commitment to sustainability. But he sent us a video. Let's watch it together.
Really sorry I can't be with you today, not least because it's a huge honour for C40 to win this award. We really do pride ourselves at C40 on being a data-driven organisation, and you have to be if you're trying to halve greenhouse gas emissions within this decade. And that means we need really accurate data, both about city emissions currently, but also the actions they're taking that are successfully cutting emissions so that we can replicate them right around the world, driving more action. So a really heartfelt thanks to Qlik, both for the award and for 6 years of wonderful partnership.
Accepting on behalf of C40's Angel Monjaras, data visualization developer at C40. Congratulations, Angel, to you and your entire team. Our second winner is Direct Relief. Direct Relief works globally to expand access to medicine and healthcare to equip doctors and nurses with life-saving medical resources. We are pleased to recognize Direct Relief with the 2023 Global Transformation Award for providing vital support to fleeing Ukrainians.
Direct Relief works in over 80 countries to equip doctors and nurses with life-saving medicines and supplies, along with essential funding for stronger health systems. Qlik has been at the heart of the organisation's work since 2015. After the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Direct Relief provided vital support to Ukrainians fleeing the war. By analysing anonymised metadata from social media on mobile devices, Direct Relief understands how population densities are changing in areas receiving significant influxes of refugees. This helps the team inform itself and others about where to allocate staff, money and other assistance, turning information into aid.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Andrew Schroeder, Vice President of Research and Analysis at Direct Relief.
Welcome, Andrew, and congratulations to you and your team on the award. Direct Relief provides critical humanitarian support, and we are honored that Click has been a part of this journey since 2015. Tell us a little bit more about the important work you're doing.
Thanks very much. So there's really two key parts of it. One is that we manage a complex medical supply chain into Ukraine, sending almost $1 billion worth of medical assistance to support people that have been affected by the war. And then outside of Ukraine, we've seen almost 9 million refugees, and we, as you saw in the video, support them with access to payment mechanisms for medicines and support partner organizations like the World Bank and UNICEF and others with information about these refugee flows. So it's a big job, and thank you very much for the award.
Thank you so much for this very important work that you're doing at Direct Relief, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Again, please join me in recognizing these two NGO award winners. This concludes the 2023 Global Transformation Awards. Once again, our thanks to all our winners for allowing us to be a part of your success. We look forward to hearing about your work with Click and recognizing you and your teams next year for the impact that data is creating in your businesses and communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Parneva and the team behind the Transformation Awards. I hope you all are inspired by the 6 winners. Now, I've learned that Click is working today with more than 300 NGOs who are doing great work all around the world, so congratulations to all of you. And I'd also like to let you know the Click team would love to make you aware they delivered a carbon neutral event with a focus on sustainability here in Vegas. They did that by way of leveraging digital signage as much as possible, restricting paper handouts, using LED lighting and electricity, and eliminating use of single plastics, and also donating all the leftover food. They even eliminated carpet in the aisles on the show floor that helped reduce over a half-a mile of plastic tape. And they made things like a strategic partnership with Climate Vault for CO2 offsets for the travel for everyone at this event. They also partnered with Mandalay Bay to share Click's commitment to sustainability and running the event here at the convention center. And don't forget all the content we have on sustainability. There are sessions that highlight at this event how customers are leveraging Click to do better outcomes, to driving better outcomes for the community and for the planet. And of course, if you want to learn more, feel free to visit the Click Sustainability booth at the show floor or head on over to click.org. All right, I'd be remiss to not share my own lived experience before bringing on this amazing speaker. There's only a few of us advanced dive reporters in the industry, so I've had the blessing to take on a number of crazy stories across the globe with the likes of NASA, the Custos, and Special Forces. Now, these experiences alone were very intense, but they didn't hold a candle to what our next guest has went through. And we're spoiled to have a front row seat to this next presentation. Since QlikWorld planning was underway and throughout our time here in Las Vegas, there's been a focus on how all of you are using Click technology to bring certainty to your businesses. And as yesterday's keynote correctly pointed out, when the world feels beneath your feet, like it's constantly shifting, when the pace of technology change is ever increasing, and of course, when the demands of the business keep coming at you relentlessly, it's data that can be the only antidote to certainty. I love that line. Yet sometimes in life, the situation presents you with factors that make it clear that finding certainty can be so difficult, and the most difficult of challenges. Sometimes the situation is unusual and so unexpected and so dangerous that lives are literally on the line. Our next speaker exposes us to just that kind of situation, one that provides perspective on the kinds of challenges that we face at work every single day. With that, have a look.
Through the night. Conditions indicate you could
was a very strong feeling
that the children couldn't be.
And I made these seals, put everything they had into it, but only this group of people who do it as a weekend hobby has the skill.
This is actually got our name all over it.
You can see your hand. Nice. From half, I couldn't move through. Finding a bigger space, sliding through, and then repeating it again and again.
How many of you? We look into each other's faces thinking we may be the only ones that have ever seen them.
Finding the boys was the easy part. How to get those kids out.
We didn't think it was possible to have the children out. We came up with an actual logistical plan.
That's a horrible idea.
To be honest, we promised multiple fatalities.
It's about controlling your emotions and your fear. Panic is death in the cave.
I go, am I going to be good enough? I'm just going to terribly embarrassed.
You don't die. I won't die. This is a one-way trip. Once you start, you cannot stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Bolanthan.
Morning, everyone. Today I want to share with you the story of how I came to find myself at the forefront of an international cave rescue incident in Thailand, where the lives of 12 children and their coach hung in the balance. I'll talk about the problems I encountered, how I faced up to them, and explain how teamwork, confidence, and certainty delivered a successful conclusion. I'll give you the inside track on how the wild boar football team were eventually brought safely to the surface. But before that, I want to take a step back for a few moments and talk briefly about my hobby, my passion, caving. Caves are fascinating places, magical and primeval. They lure you in with the offer of a physical challenge and the promise of discovery. I started caving as a boy in the Scouts, and I found that combination absolutely intoxicating. Some caves are huge, such as Deer Cave, found in the Mulu National Park in Malaysia, where you can literally park a fleet of aircraft on the floor. Others are much smaller and occasionally squalid, but each has its own character and beauty, and all present a unique challenge. Caves are formed by running water, and so inevitably, many have sections of completely flooded passage where the water reaches the roof. We call these sumps. The lower photo you can see is a particularly enticing and beautiful sump pool from a cave in Mexico. The passage doesn't end here, it just continues below the waterline. But for most cavers, when they reach a flooded section of cave, they have to turn around and head back to the surface. For a small group, the cave divers, the adventure and exploration is just beginning. My introduction to cave diving was once again in the Scouts, where in the south of the UK, beneath the Somerset Hills, on one particular trip, our leader took us to this section of flooded passage. He listed all the difficulties of continuing on, and he went as far as to say that it was virtually impossible to follow the rope you could see on under the water and into the hillside. But although I didn't really have the skills or the understanding, I simply couldn't see a reason why not. The challenge of the impossible to me was like red rag to a bull, and for most of my life, when I've been faced with difficulties, rather than dwell on the issues, I try and think about the outcome that I want. And I ask myself, why not? Fast forward a number of years and my caving and cave diving career progressed. I visited many of the known caves throughout the world, caves that have been explored and mapped by others, and I became first interested and then firmly focused on cave exploration, finding and documenting new passages for myself. Almost by accident, I found myself at the forefront of our activity. I seemed to have an aptitude for designing the procedures and creating the equipment to allow me to venture further underground than anyone else, but crucially, in a very safe and controlled manner. Cave diving, of course, is not for the faint-hearted. You're underwater, and so you have to take with you equipment that allows you to breathe. But unlike the diving you might do on holiday or in the ocean perhaps, if something goes wrong, you can't simply head to the surface because you have a solid rock ceiling above your head. The water you're diving in is very turbid. Sometimes you literally can't see your hand in front of your face. And it can be very cold, just a couple of degrees above freezing. Caves also have a habit of going deep, and so decompression sickness or the bend is an ever-present danger. But having listed all those hazards, it might seem strange that I would characterise myself as risk-averse. But I genuinely believe that all of those dangers and many that we face in our personal and professional lives can be managed through careful preparedness and awareness. Of all the explorations I've been fortunate enough to take part in, one in particular stands out. In the southwest of the UK, underneath the Mendip Hills, lies a cave called Wookey Hole. Diving in Wookey is sometimes like diving in cold coffee or cafe latte, where you literally have to feel your way along the cave wall just to make sense of where the passage goes. The end of Wookey lay a long way underground, several distinct and difficult dives, separated by cave passages of all types. Sharp rock, gloopy mud, difficult climbs. But 5 hours travel time underground at over 200 feet depth underwater, the rock roof finally dips to within 12 inches of the gravel floor. And this obstacle had rebuffed a great many explorers. By adapting and reconfiguring my equipment, I was able to quite literally plough a body-sized furrow through the gravel, emerging on the passages that lay beyond, setting a British cave diving depth record, but more importantly, mapping the tunnels that I found. Cave diving might seem like an adrenaline sport, but it really isn't. If you're feeling adrenaline at any moment, you're doing something very wrong. This video gives some idea of what underwater passage in the UK looks like when the water is clear, but it's not until you turn the camera around that you start to get a sense of just how small some of these spaces really are. The records are incidental to me. It's the discovery and the exploration that drives me. And it was perhaps this experience in a variety of conditions, being able to address the problems that each and every cave presented, that inevitably led me to becoming involved in a growing list of caving and cave diving rescues around the world. I felt a strong sense of responsibility to our small cave diving community, and offering help to those that were in need seemed to me to be the right thing to do. Talking of rescue leads me on to the events that occurred in Thailand. What started out as a dare after a weekly soccer practice turned into a race against time and a battle against the forces of nature. The Wild Boar football team had often ventured into the Tam Luang cave. They had an initiation ritual where new members of the team would write their name on a particular piece of cave wall a long way into the system. They'd been there many times before, but on this occasion, things would be very different. After football practice, they cycled to the cave, they chained their bikes to the railings and ventured into the show cave that you can see here. When they went underground, there wasn't a cloud in the sky, but unfortunately, it had rained heavily on the slopes above in the preceding days, and the water that fell on those mountains flowed through the cracks and crevices, arriving in the passage the wild boars were exploring. It appeared as a muddy torrent, and it rose incredibly quickly, cutting off their escape, forcing them further underground to try and seek a high point where they hoped to sit out the flood. The children found themselves isolated, alone, and incredibly frightened. Unfortunately, there was no cave rescue service in Thailand at that time, and so those that were first called to look for the boys were simply police and park rangers, and they found themselves quite literally out of their depth. The incident was rapidly escalated, and the government called in the military and sent a unit of Thai Navy SEALs of Special Forces to see if they could make progress through the floodwaters to find any sign of boys. When my dive partner, Rich Stanton, and I first became aware of the situation, I was absolutely certain that we had something significant to add to the rescue effort. I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that our years of experience exploring some of the most difficult caves in the world left us best placed to begin a search and effect any potential rescue. It took 2 days of pressure from our local contacts in Thailand and also in the UK, but eventually, at very short notice, Rick, myself, and a third diver, a liaison officer, Rob Harper, were allowed to deploy to Chiang Rai simply on a scheduled Thai Airways flight. We arrived 5 days after the boys had been lost, and we were dropped into what felt like utter chaos. We had significant difficulty in understanding the command and control structure. The incident was still being managed as the small problem it had started out as, but it had mushroomed now into hundreds, if not thousands of people. In the first couple of days, we managed to begin a series of reconnaissance trips into the cave, but progressively conditions worsened. What had been walking passage became a raging underground whitewater river, with a significant chance of being swept away or pinned under an undercut and drowned. We continued to force our way upstream, but we were eventually beaten back by the floodwaters. It simply wasn't possible to make progress against the volume of water that was coming out of the mountain. At this moment, the situation for the children was looking exceptionally bleak. The Thai Navy SEALs were theoretically in charge of diving operations at Tumbuan, and we initially found them very difficult to work with. As a civilian cave rescue expert, my personal safety is absolutely at the top of my priority list, and I make no apologies for that. The Thai Navy weren't trained in cave diving. Many had never been in a cave before, and despite their incredible bravery, they really didn't understand the risks they were taking until very much later. What followed for us was several days of extreme highs and lows. We were unwanted, under-resourced, and when diving was banned in the cave, we did at one point consider leaving. But we held to our belief, to our certainty, that we were the right people for the job, and quietly we began a process of team building, eventually gaining the trust of the American contingent, a pararescue unit that had flown in from Okinawa. And with their help, we began to expand our team, adding in many of the various groups on site, and eventually winning the trust of the Thai Navy SEALs, who graciously agreed to share their significant amount of materials and logistical build-up they've been making over the preceding few days. Now, with the support and the supplies we'd so desperately needed, coupled with a break in the weather, Rick and I were able to begin the job we'd gone to Thailand to do. And we made 2 significant dives from dive base that you can see here, pushing a guideline upstream to where we hoped the boys were located. The first of those dives was to reach an area of the cave known as Samyek, or the junction. This is very difficult diving. The current is so strong that you have to hang onto the wall, or you're blasted back down the passage like an underwater pinball. If you let go of the wall, you have to sink to the floor, dig your hands in the silt and crawl forwards an arm length at a time. The visibility is so poor, you literally can't see your hand in front of your face, and you have no idea if the next move forwards will take you into a collection of children's bodies. This really is not a nice place to be. The second dive of significance occurred 10 days after the boys had been lost, and that's an important time period, as beyond that, chance of survival underground starts to drop alarmingly. We decided to skin down our equipment to be as lightweight and as streamlined as possible, so we could make as much progress and search as much of the cave as we were able. We continued on, eventually reaching the area of the cave known as Pattaya Beach, where it was hoped the boys were sheltering, but we could find no sign of them. By rights, Rick and I should have turned around at that moment. We'd used as much of our air supply as was normally considered safe. But we are absolutely certain in our trust for each other and also our equipment, and we decided to continue on well beyond what would normally be considered acceptable safety margins, placing our trust in each other in the event that one of us had a problem. We continued upstream, searching any airspace that we found, shouting, smelling, trying to find any sign of humanity, progressing quite literally one breath at a time. When we found the boys, this video sent shockwaves around the world, and unbeknown to us, we instantly became ambassadors for British cave rescue and cave diving. Reluctant ambassadors, I might add. We'd taken significant risks to reach this point. We'd bent the rules in a calculated way, but experience and good judgment had given us the edge that we needed. We had very little to leave the children with. I gave them my spare lights so they were no longer sat in the dark, but crucially, I was able to boost their morale. As Rick and I prepared to leave, a knowing glance between us said it all. How on earth are we going to get these children out of that cave? I think it's fair to say that at that moment, we simply did not have a clue. But we both felt we'd shouldered a massive responsibility, one that wouldn't be lifted until each and every one of them was safely back on the surface. When the governor of Chiang Rai, the incident commander, announced the boys had been found, the world seemed to think it was a done deal. We've put men on the moon. How difficult can it be to drag a dozen kids out of the cave? The Thai Navy instantly relegated us to an advisory role, and they began to make their own plans. And over the coming days, we saw all sorts of crazy plans. Drilling, explosives, submarines, plastic tubes, space lasers, you name it, everyone had an idea as to how to rescue the children, but as subject matter experts, none to us seemed to be workable. Realising the boys still hadn't been fed any substantial volume of food, we went back to our friends, the American military, and we asked them for all of the ration packs and meals ready to eat they could spare, and we took those into the children. We thought we had about a week's worth of food, but we told them to make it last 2. This picture is of Rick and I returning, having just delivered the food to the boys. It's poignant because the gentleman on the right is the Navy diver Sam Gunan, who would lose his life in the coming days, ferrying equipment into the cave, perhaps underlining how dangerous the whole enterprise really was. Time now really was running out, and so we began to devise a plan ourselves. There's no precedent for taking a dozen children from a place of relative safety and embarking upon such a dangerous journey. Our plan was incredibly simple. One diver would escort one child all the way through the flooded sections of the cave. There'd be extreme pressure on that diver not to make any mistakes, but equally, we eliminated all of the problems we knew would happen with multiple divers operating very closely together in zero visibility. But our real question was how to minimize risk in a plan that is clearly fraught with danger. We understood the boys could barely swim. They'd certainly never dived before, let alone cave dived, and it was almost inevitable that at some point, cold, disorientated, and in a totally unfamiliar environment, they would at some point panic, kill themselves, and probably their chaperone as well. We decided we would only attempt the rescue if we could sedate the boys in some way. When we asked a colleague of ours, an anaesthetist, a cave diver, Dr. Richard Harris, if he would come to Thailand and consider doing that for us. He wasn't keen, but he did agree to come and assess the situation for himself. Once we'd assembled our team and created our procedures, we began to rehearse. 4 lads from the local swimming club agreed to be stand-ins, and with their help, we were able to perform some significant practice. But this rehearsal had a very additional benefit that we hadn't anticipated. In the clear waters of the pool, we were able to demonstrate that what we said was possible could actually be done. And this provided some certainty for the leadership of the rescue that we were actually a good bet. Eventually, we were given the go-ahead to commence the rescue, and over 3 days, 4 children per day were brought to the surface. The Wild Boar's journey out was absolutely perilous. We had their Thai Navy chaperones move them up around the corner on the mud bank where they were perching, so they couldn't see what was happening to each of their teammates. One by one, we brought them down to the water's edge, dressed them in a wetsuit and a neoprene hood, and then Dr. Harris would sedate the child. When the boy was fully unconscious, we placed a full-face diving mask on the front of his head, covering all the way from his forehead down to his chin. The seal on that mask was absolutely crucial. It had to be perfect. And it was tested by placing the unconscious boy's face underwater. And that feels incredibly wrong, I can tell you. Especially as each of the boys held their breath for perhaps 30 or 40 seconds. But eventually, we could see the boys relax and bubbles started to emerge from the diving regulator connected to the mask. And we knew it was time to begin the journey out. The boys were laid horizontally in the water, and I would lay above and slightly in front, cradling the child to me to try and give him some protection. The visibility was so poor, the only way I knew the boy was still alive was that occasionally, when he exhaled, bubbles would rise past my face, and I could relax a little, knowing I was still making the journey out with a live child, rather than something very much less pleasant. If a head was going to hit the roof, it had to be my head. If a mask was going to be dislodged, it had to be my mask. Anything to preserve the integrity of the seal around the child's face to ensure they continue breathing. After a journey time of perhaps 4 hours, we would eventually reach dive base and hand out charges over to the waiting military. They would load the boys onto flexible stretchers and then maneuver them on aerial ropeways, eventually hand carrying them out of the cave. The first 2 days, each of us had their struggles, but we were able to successfully bring 8 boys to the surface. On the evening of the second day, the rain returned, and I was incredibly nervous. I'd seen how violently the cave could flood, and the idea of being caught a long way underground when a flood pulse came through really didn't bear thinking about, let alone being in that situation with an unconscious child. As a team, we paused and reviewed, but we felt that our experience to date, our equipment, and also our faith in what we needed to do added up to us to be certainty. We went back into the cave for the last 4 children, modifying our procedure slightly to allow us to shuffle the cove chart between us. This was the water coming out of the cave and flooding across the region just a couple of days after the rescue had been completed. It wasn't possible to walk to that chamber where the boys had been sheltering for well over 7 months after the rescue had been completed. We took huge risks, both in finding but more specifically in extracting the boys. But with the passage of time and seeing the children together healthy and happy, I'm confident we made the right choices. The Thai Navy SEALs wrote on their Facebook page when the rescue had been completed. They said they didn't understand if it was science, a miracle, or what. It certainly wasn't a miracle, and it wasn't luck either. Success was achieved through teamwork, confidence, and a positive mindset, despite the fact that at times the situation seemed impossible. Politicians, local officials, rescue workers and divers each knew their role in the operation, and crucially, when the time came, each was prepared to act. For my part, I tried to focus on moving forwards slowly and carefully, trying to stay positive, sometimes simply not making any mistakes. But when others felt the rescue was impossible, that the children couldn't be saved, I tried to think about the outcome that I wanted, and I quietly asked myself, why not? Thank you very much.
join me for a Q&A.
Sounds good to me, thank you.
Absolutely incredible story. And I think something you forgot to note at the beginning of this is you're one of many of us. You're in IT. You are a true techie, and I think a lot of this, potentially, you tell me, has played into your dive experience.
Very much so. Possibly even the other way around. My background is Cisco networking, and for years I've been applying many of the lessons that I've learned in cave diving to my workplace, especially when things go wrong, and trying to help other people to deal with the pressure and the difficulties that we all know happen when IT systems go wrong.
In hindsight, my goodness, I could stay up here for hours and ask you so many questions. It's hard to narrow down, but in analyzing the plan, is there anything that you would have changed looking back? I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, but it'd be interesting to hear.
We always review every rescue or incident that we attend, and there are always lessons to learn. I think for me, the important lesson here was in Thailand, it was an unusual situation in that we weren't brought in as acknowledged experts. I think we were brought in to help, but we had to establish ourselves as having that expertise, and that was unusual and perhaps unexpected for us. So most of the lessons that we learned around that incident weren't necessarily through the diving. They were perhaps more to do with dealing with the people and also the groups and agendas that were on site.
You've participated in so many different missions where you assessed that it potentially was too risky. And, you know, we can kind of apply this over into the business world as well. What is that moment where you stop and assess and reassess that say, sometimes it's not working, I've got to drop the pride, I've got to go about a different strategy? What is your mindset like in those situations?
So for us, a risk assessment is continuous, but it's also a risk versus benefit as well. So usually a rescue where there's a potentially a live person has a very different risk profile to perhaps a body recovery. And we have on occasion looked at body recoveries and decided it wasn't justifiable to try and recover someone. That's quite a big deal because closure is quite important to me, but it's also really important to make sure that all of the people that we're sending into that cave come out safely.
You've done so much cave rescue over the years, and obviously this is one thing you're known for, and rightfully so, but would you say this was your biggest challenge, hands down?
This was certainly the biggest challenge that I encountered. I don't think it was the most dangerous from a personal point of view, but the danger to the boys was extreme, and the logistics were unusually complex in terms of the number of children or people that were trapped in the cave, and also the distance they were from the surface.
Just from a diver's perspective, when you're going through training and advanced diving, it is complex. There's often panic that comes involved when, you know, it's a whole new area to learn. Was that something that you were very nervous about in teaching the boys and the approach that you took to get them out?
The approach we took to get the boys out was a method really that it didn't matter what their mindset was really. Because they were sedated, they didn't have the opportunity to panic, and that was part of the plan. It was almost inevitable they would panic if they weren't sedated in some way. So we decided, as a problem-solving exercise, to remove that from the equation.
Do you stay in touch with any of the boys?
I like to think that the boys aren't beholden to me or anyone else that took part in the rescue. That's really important to me. But we do get information from various of our friends and sources in Thailand, so it's nice to keep a distance, but interested in what's going on.
You're a big part of their life. That was huge.
But it shouldn't be that way. That they had a misadventure and now they're getting on with their lives. It's something that's in their past. It might be something that was significant to me, but it's important that they get on with their lives and they're not affected, or they're affected as little as possible by their misadventure.
In 2010, you set a world record for the longest cave penetration dive, reaching 28,900 feet. And I think it would be interesting for the audience to hear if you genuinely, we go back to that panic or what your mindset was like with that, and also to share just the decompression, even to get to the top after a dive that deep. A little insight.
I'm not a great panicker, but I think anybody.
A great panicker.
How do you get that out?
I like to think I watch myself and I'm a little bit self-aware. So sometimes we can all feel that panic kind of rising in our stomachs. And just at that moment, that's a time for me to pause, perhaps in my mind, I push that worry down and just try to pause, calm myself, and then can continue on. In terms of decompression, it's one of the few times that you can never be distracted or disturbed. Normally in everyday life, there's always a phone or there's always a query or something to take your attention away. But when you're on the water and you quite literally can't surface, it's actually quite relaxing. You can just lay there and occasionally I'll fall asleep.
What was the decompression time at 28,000 feet? How many hours was that?
So we probably, some of those dives were well over 12 to 14 hours, and a significant amount of that was decompression.
So obviously the theme is just certainty. And we've been talking so much about certainty and finding certainty when there's so much uncertainty. How do you do that in a situation like this? And how do you bring it home for us? In a situation that's so challenging, so complex, and so dangerous, how do you find certainty when it's not there?
I think there's certainty or uncertainty in most things that we do. And the way I tend to look for confidence and certainty is through teamwork, by using my experience, but also the experience of the team, looking at our equipment and also the procedures that we have, and also trust in the people around me. And those things gave us the confidence in Thailand to be able to bring the boys out safely. And I think that also applies to many situations, both in the IT world, my job, but also in life in general. And that, I think, is a key lesson. That can be applied across almost any sphere. And I hope most of you can take something of what I've talked about and apply those lessons in your workplace, or certainly take them away with you today.
John Blanth and everyone. So you actually have a chance to say hello to John. He is going to be down on the show floor at 12:30 to answer any questions and also to take a selfie, so take advantage of that. You can also find him in the area where the cube was set up yesterday if you're looking for exactly where he will be. All right, a few additional notes before I let you go. Remember, the show floor features all the breakout sessions on your agenda today, and it's going to open as soon as we conclude sessions this morning. Make sure you also cash in your token for a free t-shirt. And it was made known that actual token, you can take it home and plant it. It's a seed bomb. Who knew? Also, please visit the exhibits for our partners, and especially those the sponsors that we were mentioning here today. Show floor, open until 6 p.m. Now, before we have our closing segment, let me say a few words about this evening. I have a big task here. We're make sure to drive it home. So here's the deal. It's all about the event we are calling Data After Hours, and it's being held at Allegiant Stadium. Of course, yes, NFL's Las Vegas Raiders. It is a few blocks behind the hotel. The event is going to be jam-packed with food, games, entertainment, and music. And I understand there's also this thing to grab a selfie with Mike Capone at the party. It's like a known thing. So get your selfie with Mike. He's looking forward to it. Also, hashtag QlikWorld. You can use it in SOLL. Keep those posts coming. You can follow me at Katie Glenville. I've been retweeting so many of you. So good to connect and make so many new friends. And here's where I'm going to drive it home. I mentioned Allegiant Stadium, home of the Raiders. It's part of the party tonight includes behind-the-scenes tours. So you can go in the Raiders locker room, tons of activities. You can go down on the field and actually see if you can kick a field goal. Not going to be easy. Give it a try. But you cannot walk there, okay? We do not want you walking because there's actually a special, unique entrance just for our group. So you can't officially walk there. What you have to do is take your badge. Now they're like, make it very visual. Take badge, not being patronizing. Take this with you. You can't get into the stadium without your badge. We've got buses and shuttles running from Mandalay Bay starting at 6:45 p.m. And they're going to be going back and forth from the hotel to the stadium the whole evening. Shuttle buses right next to Shark Reef over by Starbucks at the entrance of the convention center. And they're going to run until about 10:15. And again, security requirement, got to have this badge. No exceptions. All right. Our last segment is a final word with Mike, but before that, let me just again acknowledge everyone who has made QlikWorld possible, from the show sponsors to booth staffs, all the partners and exhibitors, the sessions held by customers, partners, experts, and to the amazing web team who made the live stream possible so many that couldn't be here to join us in Vegas could watch from around the world. Thank you to all of them, as well as our amazing production and event staff. Please give them a round of applause.